my first interview is with a dear friend of mine. He's been involved with the Highland Games since the early 90s. He is a multiple world record holder and now has just recently become the new president of SMAI, Scottish Masters Athletics International. So let me introduce to you the guy sitting next to me on the screen, Ted Van Vleck.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. It's good to see you, Teddy. So why in the world would you want to take on the task of being president at SMAI?
Well, once I made the announcement, I received a lot of congratulations and emails and messages, and I did respond to a few of them, saying one moment I was really excited and one moment I was questioning my sanity. But I think for me, the first Masters Worlds I ever attended was in 2003 in Springfield, and I got to see Kevin and Merle do their thing running that. And my favorite part of it was watching Mark McDonald come over from Scotland, and him and Mike Babb and Miles Wetzel battle it out on Wob. I think there were some smelling salts, and they were up to 18, 19 feet. And just, I was just in amazement at what they could do with the 42. But just seeing what Kevin took over, um, and grew from what Billy and I think Dan DeWild even had a small part in getting it started with Billy. But I just know this sport has given a lot to me. It's brought my brother and I close together. My brother's the one that got me into throwing. It's how I met my wife. And then really, when I really look at if I was in a dire situation and the top friends I would call to help, I think all of them I've met through the games. So I just know it's done a lot for me, and it really carried me through a lot of my health issues. And so I think I'm on borrowed time now with my throwing, and I just felt like it was the perfect opportunity and timing for me to take this over and hopefully continue it on, but give back to the sport that's done so much for me.
That's awesome because you're going to have your hands full. I had the brief opportunity to be with you on the board for this past year, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Tell me a little bit about your vision for getting this stuff done.
Yeah, so that was interesting, being a part of the board and really seeing the behind the scenes and just all the legwork that goes into it. All of us have what we love about a game, whether it's the shirt, whether it's the food, whether it's the host hotel that everyone stays at, having traditional order, not having sheaf, having sheaf, and then we all have our things that we like to complain about. So seeing what it takes to put on that at the world level, and then you've got athletes from different countries, and all of them kind of have different things that they like and dislike. So realizing you're not going to make everyone happy. But I think for me, when I break it down, I'm taking this over to give back to the athletes, and I consider myself one. So it's not for me to push my likes and dislikes into this format, but it's to collect what everyone wants out of it. And so I think I've kind of drilled down to three things I hope to accomplish, and that's first one's having trust, having you all trust me to do what I say I'm going to do, and trust in the name with SMAI and with Masters Worlds, and just believe there's going to be a good product on the field. The second one is consistency. I think we've tried different things. I've had some great conversations with Mike and Kevin and my brother and Merle and a lot of folks that I spent time with throwing in the 90s. And I think consistency is going to be important, that location to location, country to country, that we know going into it what the rules are so we can train for that. We know, the standards for the events and judging and all of those things are going to be consistent, that we can pack and plan accordingly. And then the last one's quality. We've kind of outgrown NASGA, database. And so my biggest push here in the beginning, and I'm trying to have it ready for Jacksonville, is a database that has all of our classes in it, so that masters women lightweight to 80 plus all have their groups that you can put your scores in. The Europeans and other countries can put their scores in meters, and we can all see where we stand with one another. But I want that quality with the judging, with the games, with the awards, with everything we put out there with our name on it, that that it's going to be quality and you can trust the consistency in it. So we're going to try to accomplish that in a few different ways. You mentioned being on the board, and you're welcome back anytime. But I've got Courtney and Michelle coming back, and we've had some talks and of what we're going to try to accomplish. But I think the big thing we're gonna drive is committees, and we're putting together a committee of athletic directors that you're going to be a part of. We've got a committee of throwers, and I want those throwers to represent other countries, each part of the U.S., so that folks know they can go through somebody to get their voices heard. And then a committee of volunteers, and I'll be reaching out and posting, asking for help with folks that can ensure our website and database is of good quality, safe and secure. Any help with marketing, legal, just anything that somebody that might do in their day jobs that can assist us in taking this to the next level. And then the last thing we're gonna do is we'll be putting out a series of surveys to get feedback from everybody. Because again, I think for me, this is going to be owned by all of us, and so I want it to be something that everybody looks forward to attending every year. New throwers look forward to being good enough to qualify and get in. And I think that comes from listening to everybody and finding out. Like I said, I don't want to put. I certainly have my likes and dislikes, but those may or may not be what the majority think, and I'm not going to be able to make everybody happy. But I'm going to focus on seeing what the majority feel and try to put that onto the field.
So with that common database like that, is it going to represent their current rankings from everybody? So at a glance, you can look and find yourself within your group and see exactly where you're standing.
Yeah, so I think I'm a good example. I've had a plethora of surgeries. I'm up to 11, and between my back, but mostly my shoulder, I held world records, but yet I honestly never, like the first years whenever I was in my 40s, I never qualified because I never hit the qualifying numbers for weight for distance. I'm throwing weight for distance opposite handed. And now with my back fuse, I can't create that separation. So my weight for distance numbers are horrible. So on a bigger scale, I couldn't hit those numbers. And so I think a lot of us, especially as masters throwers, we may be great in half the events and not so great in the others. And so I want to go and find who's best at all 8 or 9 events and see how we all rank with one another. So I want I want the Europeans, Australia, any country competing to be able to put their scores in. They can enter them in meters or feet, and we'll be able to do a lot of what NASCA does for the pros for the Celtic. That we'll have that red line in there for 10th or 12th place, and you'll be able to see where you're at going into whenever registration starts. And so instead of having qualifying numbers, those top 10 will know that they're invited, and they let us know if they're coming or not. And if they're not, then we go to 11, we go to 12, and we'll work our way back down. But I want people to have a good feel and know where they stand going into it, and not just, especially with those traveling from further away, I want them to know in advance that, hey, I can make these plans. I can try to ask off for work and do the things I need to do to be ready. And so certainly a lot of details in that we haven't narrowed down. I want to be able to talk to Courtney and Michelle with who's helping us develop it. But that is my biggest push to get that ready to go. I can't promise I'll have it for Jacksonville, but it's what my goal is.
So that those kind of things are costly, and it's going to cost you all some money to do that. Is that where we can expect some of our registration fees to go?
Yeah, so I'm here to talk about today forward, and that goes back to I appreciate you asking. I think that was nice asking my why for this because I hope that a lot of folks that know me know how much I love this sport. I received so many questions from friends, maybe friends, asking why I kept throwing, and it's just because all of us that compete either did work a career or are is still working our career, and competing is our hobby. It's we work all week, all year, and on Saturday we get to road trip somebody somewhere, and we have a athletic director and some volunteers giving their time so that we can be kids again and spend the day in the sun, playing with friends. And so I took this over hoping I don't need to come a lot out of pocket, but I just want to be able to budget the money to make sure we've got quality awards. We've started having those champion patches to be able to go on the kilt if you win the world championship that year, so that if you've got all the world's patches on your kilt, you can see what year somebody won. Um, the plaques for the Hall of Fame, I'm creating a Hall of Fame patch as well that folks can put on their kilt so people can
That's
can
very cool.
tell and recognize that they're in there. But yes, the monthly fee for the website, the monthly fee and the development and upkeep for the database, all those things are going to be things that I budget for. And I've got a list of things um, that I want to do as well, but that'll just come with Courtney and Michelle and I talking when we get the feedback from everybody and see what we can do to give even more back. But the database is definitely going to be selfishly something I want to push because I think it's important with this being an international competition that we have something that all countries can be a part of and put their scores in and see where we're at with one another.
So you talked about awards and consistency. Does that mean normally I believe the awards actually come from the hosting venue and athletic director and SMAI has had very little to say in what was presented or created or developed or are you looking to create something consistent to where it's a recognizable MWC award?
Yeah, that's probably something I need to hold back on so I don't get Courtney on me, since we haven't fully discussed it. But it
Okay.
was something that I obviously watching the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NFL. I like the idea of I recognize those trophies. When I see that trophy, I know that's an NHL championship, it's an NFL championship, it's a World Series trophy. I like the idea of the World Championships trophy being the same. It becomes a logistical problem trying to have the same company make those and ship them to all the games. But I also really like the uniqueness of Switzerland, Canada, Austin. Having trophies that fit that location. But in my mind, first place could be something that we ultimately provide, and second and third has the uniqueness of that location. But that's just kind of more of my wish list and not something that we're pushing or going forward with now. But something we discussed on the board, and I'll continue to discuss with Courtney and Michelle. But I don't want to get too many of my thoughts and ideas out there until I hear back from everyone through the surveys and finding out what's important to the majority of folks. Because I mean, too, we've discussed it with your games that you direct. I mean, it's amazing. Like we think of something that we love this, and half the throwers don't care for it at all,
Right.
and they like something that we just don't see the value in. So I really want to, especially since I am in such, I mean, I'm in Texas, so I don't want to assume throwers in Canada, Europe, Australia, South America, all of them want the same things that I want whenever they attend a world championship. So
Well,
database is certainly the one thing that I'm going to push, that I'm going to invest in, whether it comes out of pocket or not. The rest is going to come from the surveys and the committees, and then I'll sprinkle in my thoughts and ideas.
So in the same vein of consistency and Europe, what's going to become of the sheaf toss?
So we are, and this will tie in with the database. So I would like all 9 events contested at the World Championship. To me, it's like a decathlon, and you don't go to a competition and run 5 of the 10 events at that competition. So it's funny when we don't have it at games. We got complaints from throwers in other countries that wanted to have sheaf. As the majority of those that wanted are in the U.S. But I want to look at the majority of the competitors that register to attend and what they want. But on the database, we are not going to include sheaf in the rankings, just because not all athletes may have access to a competition with sheaf. So I will not be including that in the rankings. For that reason, I want to be fair to all athletes, but we are going to be talking to locations that are willing to host all 9 events, and logistically, if we need to assist with that, I'm willing to discuss it with them. After Jacksonville, I think right now we've got 3 locations that we're talking to for 2025, and but that is for sure something I want to drive is having all the events there. But we'll not include those on the rankings. I don't want somebody not able to get into a competition with sheaf to miss out on attending Worlds for that reason.
And right now the pattern is we've got 2 events in the States coming up, 24 and 25, before we head back off to a European area.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm hoping I guess I was going to make a formal announcement with that, but this will be it. I felt like that gave everyone time to prepare and train and be ready for whenever we go back to another country for the World Championships.
Love it, Teddy. Before we start tying things together, you're a really impressive individual. Not just throwing, but in your private life, and you don't have to talk about the company you work for, but if you could just a real quick snapshot of what you do for a living.
I'm similar to a corporate trainer. I work in transportation and I travel around. We're in 28 states, 2 Canadian provinces, and Mexico. And I really look at process improvement and the logistics of what the locations do and see what we can do to improve it through utilizing technology that we have or technology that we're trying to develop. Right now, we're working with 2 companies, one out of Boston and another outside contractor on some use with AI. But I just try to look at process improvement and go in and look at dashboard numbers and just kind of pivot table it every way I can until I see where some low hanging fruit is that we can go after. But I think just looking at our day to day life, like when we go out and run errands, how many times do we leave the house 5 times when we could have left once? And UPS puts their routes together to where it's all right hand turns because you spend a lot of gas and time waiting for a light to turn left. So I've probably the last 6 years have been totally ingrained in process improvement. So I'm hoping I can apply a lot of that to SMAI and our World Championships.
They sound very parallel in responsibilities. The technology may not be there completely, but the logic process certainly is.
Yeah, well, and that's something too. With the new database, my hope is we can have iPads on the field. We utilize that in my industry. We're just rolling those out and having a lot of apps that we put on there so that folks in the field can utilize those to communicate real time. But I want similar to what Canada did with the Google Sheets, but we can put the scores in through the iPad and they upload to the database real time so that whether we're live streaming or whatever things that we're looking at doing, those scores can be in there real time so that our families and friends back home watching can see what's going on.
Well, man, we're going to wrap this up. And I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your Saturday to sit here with me and kind of get this whole thing launched off for HAA as well. I'd do anything for you, man. Love you, brother. And thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate it, Doug.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Bye.